The lawyer's office smelled of old leather and dust, the kind of place where secrets were buried in paperwork. I sat across from Mr. Desai, my hands trembling as he read Grandpa Vikram's will. I was Arjun, 26, the grandson who'd spent summers tinkering in Grandpa's auto repair shop, learning to fix engines and listening to his stories of grit. The shop, Vic's Auto, was his pride, a small-town legend that kept cars running for decades. I expected to inherit it, to carry on his legacy. Instead, Mr. Desai's words hit like a punch: the business has been sold. Sold? By whom? My parents, aunts, and uncles sat behind me, their faces blank. They'd sold Vic's Auto without telling me, pocketing the money. My chest tightened. Grandpa had trusted me, taught me everything. How could they do this? I turned to Mom, her eyes avoiding mine. Why? I demanded. She mumbled about debts and family decisions. My Uncle Raj added, it was for the best, Arjun. The shop was old, losing money. Lies. I'd seen the books last summer. Vic's Auto was thriving. They'd betrayed Grandpa's trust and mine. As I stormed out, Mr. Desai called after me, there's more to the will. Come back tomorrow. I barely heard him, my mind racing. But something in his tone stuck, a hint of hope. Grandpa always had a plan. I didn't know it yet, but he'd left me a lifeline, one my family never saw coming. Driving home, I replayed memories of Grandpa, his calloused hands, his laugh, his belief in me. He'd said, Arjun, this shop's your future. Protect it. I'd failed him, or so I thought. The betrayal burned, but Grandpa's cunning was about to change everything. Tomorrow, I'd learn his backup plan, and my family would face the consequences of their greed. Growing up, Vic's Auto was my sanctuary. While my cousins chased sports or video games, I was under the hood with Grandpa, learning how to rebuild a carburetor by 12. He'd tell stories of starting the shop in the 70s, scraping by to build a name. Hard work beats shortcuts, he'd say, winking. My parents and uncles saw the shop as a cash cow, always pushing Grandpa to sell. He'd refuse, saying it was for me, his apprentice. I believed him, but I was naive about my family's greed. After Grandpa's heart attack last year, I took a leave from my mechanic job in the city to help at the shop. The books were solid, steady clients, loyal staff. I told Mom and Dad we could expand, maybe add a detailing service. They nodded, but their eyes darted to Uncle Raj, who'd been whispering about developers eyeing the shop's land. I should have seen the signs. They were planning the sale even then, waiting for Grandpa's will to be read. Back home after the lawyer's bombshell, I couldn't sleep. I dug through old photos, finding one of me and Grandpa in front of the shop's sign. On the back, in his shaky handwriting, was a note, Arjun, check the toolbox. My heart raced. Grandpa loved riddles. Was this a clue? I drove to the shop at dawn, now locked and sold to some faceless corporation. The toolbox was still there, hidden in the back. Inside, under a pile of wrenches, was a sealed envelope marked for Arjun. My hand shook as I opened it, a letter, a key, and a map. Grandpa's backup plan was real. The envelope changed everything. Grandpa's letter was short but clear, Arjun, if you're reading this, the family's shown their true colors. The shop was yours, but greed blinds. Use the key. Follow the map. My real legacy's waiting. The map pointed to a storage unit on the edge of town, one I'd never known about. The key was old, heavy, like it belonged to something serious. I drove there at sunrise, my mind spinning. What had Grandpa hidden? The storage unit was tucked behind a rusted gate, unassuming but secure. The key fit a padlock on Unit 17. Inside was a steel vault, the kind banks use. My heart pounded as I turned the key. The door creaked open, revealing stacks of documents, a laptop, and a small safe. The documents were deeds, land Grandpa owned, separate from the shop, worth millions. The laptop held blueprints for a new auto repair chain, Vic's Legacy, with detailed plans to franchise. The safe? Cash and gold bars, enough to start over. Grandpa hadn't just left me a shop, he'd left me an empire. I sat there, stunned. My family thought they'd won by selling the shop, but Grandpa had outsmarted them. The deeds were in my name, notarized years ago. The laptop's files showed he'd been planning this for me, knowing my family's greed might surface. I wasn't just inheriting a business, I was inheriting his vision. But first, I needed to confront my family. They'd sold what they thought was everything, but Grandpa's real legacy was mine. I called a family meeting at Mom's house, the envelope tucked in my jacket. My parents, Uncle Raj, and Aunt Mira sat around the table, expecting me to beg for a share of the shop's sale. Instead, I laid out the deeds. "Grandpa left me these," I said, watching their faces pale. "Land worth more than the shop." "You sold his business, but you didn't know about this." Mom gasped. Uncle Raj sputtered, "That's impossible." But the documents were ironclad, signed and notarized. I pressed further, revealing the laptop's plans. Grandpa wanted me to build Vic's legacy, a chain of shops. He trusted me, not you. Aunt Mira tried to deflect, claiming they sold the shop to save the family. I wasn't buying it. I'd checked the sale records, they'd pocketed $500,000, splitting it among themselves. Not a cent went to debts. They'd betrayed Grandpa and me for quick cash. Dad stayed silent, guilt in his eyes. Mom reached for my hand, but I pulled back. "You didn't even tell me," I said. "You let me think I'd failed him." The room grew quiet. Uncle Raj tried to argue, but I cut him off. "I'm not here to fight. I'm here to tell you I'm moving forward, without you." I left, the deeds and laptop in hand, ready to build what Grandpa envisioned. They'd underestimated us both. I moved fast. The storage unit's cash gave me a start, but the deeds were the real power, prime land perfect for new shops. I hired a lawyer, Ms. Kapoor, to verify everything. She was impressed. "Your grandfather was a genius," she said. "These assets are untouchable by your family." She helped me set up a company, Vic's Legacy LLC, and file for permits. I wasn't just rebuilding Grandpa's shop, I was expanding his dream. I rented a small office and started planning the first location. The laptop's blueprints were detailed, modern repair shops with eco-friendly tech, training programs for young mechanics, and a community focus. Grandpa had thought of everything. I hired a small team, including my old friend Samir, a mechanic who'd worked at Vic's Auto. "Your grandpa would be proud," he said, studying the plans. We scouted the first site, a plot from Grandpa's deeds, and broke ground within weeks. My family tried to reach me, leaving voicemails about misunderstandings. I ignored them. They'd made their choice. But doubt crept in, could I really pull this off? The shop sale had shaken me, but Grandpa's letter kept me grounded. "Arjun, you're my legacy. Build it." I worked late nights, fueled by coffee and his words, determined to prove him right. Vic's Legacy wasn't just a business, it was my redemption. The first Vic's Legacy shop opened 6 months later, a sleek building with Grandpa's name on the sign. Locals loved it, our eco-friendly repairs and fair prices drew crowds. Samir ran the floor, while I handled strategy, using Grandpa's plans. We trained young mechanics, giving them skills and purpose, just as Grandpa had done for me. The shop turned a profit in 3 months, and investors started calling, impressed by our model. I kept the other deeds quiet, planning more locations. But word spread, and my family heard about the shop's success. Uncle Raj showed up one day, all smiles, offering to help manage. I laughed. "You sold Grandpa's dream. This is mine now." He left, red-faced. Mom called, apologizing again, but I wasn't ready to forgive. I focused on the business, opening a second shop on another of Grandpa's plots. The community rallied behind us, and Vic's Legacy became a local legend, just like the original. At night, I'd read Grandpa's letter, tracing his words. He'd known my family might betray me, but he'd trusted me to rise above. The shops weren't just buildings, they were proof I could outsmart their greed. Investors offered millions, but I held firm. This was Grandpa's vision, and I'd build it my way, one shop at a time. A year after the sale, my family's facade cracked. Uncle Raj's new car and Mom's fancy renovations, funded by the shop's sale, were running dry. They'd blown through the money, while Vic's legacy thrived. I got a call from Aunt Mira, her voice shaky. "Arjun, we made a mistake. Can we talk?" I agreed, but only at my office, on my terms. They arrived, humbled, expecting me to share the wealth. I showed them the numbers: 2 shops, millions in revenue, plans for 5 more. "This is what Grandpa left me," I said. "You sold his shop for pocket change." "I built this." Mom cried, Dad looked away. They admitted they'd been greedy, thinking the shop was their payday. "We didn't know about the deeds," Uncle Raj said. I nodded. "Grandpa knew you'd never look deeper." They left, their regret heavy, but I felt no pity. They'd chosen greed, I'd chosen Grandpa's vision. Neha, my cousin, reached out separately. She hadn't been part of the sale and felt guilty. "I want to help," she said. I hired her to manage community outreach, giving her a chance to prove herself. Slowly, we rebuilt trust, but the others? They'd have to live with their choices. Vic's legacy was my focus, and it was growing faster than I'd dreamed. By year 2, Vic's legacy had 5 shops, each thriving. We were in the news, praised for sustainable practices and community impact. I spoke at industry events, sharing Grandpa's story and mine. Investors offered to buy us out, but I refused. This wasn't about money, it was about legacy. I used the deeds to open more locations, each one a tribute to Grandpa's cunning. Neha proved invaluable, running programs to teach kids mechanics. Samir became my right-hand man, overseeing operations. We were a family, not of blood, but of purpose. My parents sent letters, asking to reconnect. I invited them to a shop opening, testing their sincerity. They came, awed by what I'd built. "We were wrong," Dad said. I nodded but kept my distance. Trust took time. One night, I found a video Grandpa had left on the laptop, a message recorded years ago. "Arjun," he said, "if they sell the shop, don't hate them. Build bigger. You're my legacy." Tears fell as I watched. He'd known, and he'd trusted me. Vic's legacy wasn't just shops, it was his belief in me, made real. 3 years in, Vic's legacy was a national name. 10 shops, thousands of jobs, and a training academy for young mechanics. I partnered with schools, giving kids like me a chance. The deeds were nearly all used, each plot a thriving hub. My family watched from the sidelines, their regret a quiet backdrop. Neha became my partner, her loyalty a bridge to healing. Mom and Dad started volunteering at our community programs, trying to make amends. I let them, but boundaries stayed firm. Uncle Raj and Aunt Mira faded, their greed a lesson I'd never forget. I mentored new entrepreneurs, sharing Grandpa's wisdom: hard work beats shortcuts. At one event, a kid asked how I kept going after betrayal. "Because someone believed in me," I said, thinking of Grandpa. The laptop's final file was a letter to me, dated a month before his death. "Arjun, you're the heart of Vic's legacy. Keep building." I did, not for revenge, but for him. The shops were my proof, I'd turned betrayal into triumph, just as he'd planned. 5 years after the sale, Vic's legacy was an empire: 20 shops, a foundation for underprivileged kids, and a name synonymous with trust. I stood at the flagship store's anniversary, Neha by my side, as we unveiled a statue of Grandpa Vikram. The crowd cheered, and I saw Mom and Dad in the back, tears in their eyes. They'd changed, volunteering regularly, proving their regret. I forgave them, not fully, but enough to move forward. Neha and I expanded the foundation, funding scholarships for mechanics. I spoke globally, sharing our story of resilience. The kid who'd been betrayed now inspired others. Grandpa's backup plan, his deeds, his vision, had saved me. At the event, I raised a glass. To Grandpa Vikram, who saw what others didn't. The crowd roar.